What's up, everybody? I'm Mckenty. This is my second channel, and this is your home for my Twitch highlights and my podcast. So if you like this and you want to see more of that and you want to join the live streams, there's a link to that in the description of this video. And with that out of the way, it is time for Pop Punk Tier List Part 2. If you haven't already seen the first one, go check it out. I thought it was pretty good. Let's start with Good Charlotte. You guys probably know my feelings about this band since I did a whole video about them recently. But nonetheless, if this is a pop punk tier list, they've got to be in it. And as a reminder, the way that we rank these artists, we rank them on 3 dimensions. Number 1 is how commercially successful they are. That's got to count for something, right? If a band sells millions of records, they got to get some credit for that. Number 2 is how influential they are, because there are artists who did not sell very many albums but made an important contribution to pop punk by being influential. And then number 3 is how much I like them, and how much I like them, honestly, partly depends on the fan base, because there's just something about these bands with annoying Punisher fan bases that just makes me want to hate the band. My pettiness knows no bounds, so if a band has an obnoxious, overly enthusiastic fan base, that's gonna knock them down at least 1 tier, maybe 2. So Punishers, be careful. Keep your punishing energy to yourselves, or it may harm the ranking of your favorite band. But Good Charlotte, you know where I'm gonna put them, right? You know where. Good Charlotte is an S tier band. Sold zillions and zillions of albums. Pretty influential as far as being like a gateway band that got people into the genre, I would say. And I think they're great. You listen to them, they still hold up in my opinion. So I think S tier is really the only place that they belong. Another band that we've got to talk about that got left out of the last one is Simple Plan. The Canadian answer to Good Charlotte, maybe, or the Canadian answer to Blink, something like that. Either way, the important part is that they were very Canadian. One of the few Canadian bands to actually have an impact over here. I get a lot of messages from Canadians demanding that I talk about Billy Talent or Alexis on Fire or some of these other Canadian artists that kind of never really had an impact here, like Stereos, for example. Stereos, there's an A tier band. Now, Simple Plan, where do we think they belong? Very successful commercially. I mean, you know, they were in a movie with the Olsen twins. They did make somewhat of an impact on the mainstream culture in that way. You know, somewhat successful as an entry level like gateway band, but I think maybe not quite as much as Good Charlotte. Do I like them? I do. They get a little bit juvenile at times, which, you know, to some extent is just the nature of the genre. But one thing we do have to give them a lot of credit for. I kind of forgot this as one important part of the puzzle. We've got to talk about their drip, the pop punk drip, because they had some of the best drip in the game. Look at this. Pretty good. We've got the faux hawk. We've got some khaki shants. Are those Macbeth shoes? I forget. Is that what those are? And then, yeah, their brand role model. Because remember back in the mid-2000s and every pop punk dude had a clothing brand? Of course. We've got the sweatband. Oh, look at this. You guys know White Zetsu from Naruto? This guy's like White Zetsu of Canadian alternative music. That's what I think. This half of him with the wristband is pop punk. This half with the wrist cuff is butt rock. I can't tell what this guy's got going on in his wrist. You know why I am the best music commenter on YouTube and Twitch? Because I care about this shit. I care about your wrist accessories. That's why. Everyone else is just thinking about the music. And you know, is the music important? Sure. But what's really important is your wrist accessories. That's what really matters. That's what really tells us who you are as an artist. Wrist accessories. Got to give them some props for that. And of course, here, your classic early 2000s pop punk drip. You've got your Dickies shants, chunky belt buckle. You've got the faux hawk, the gelled up spiky hair. You got your hat backwards at a jaunty angle. I would be willing to bet that somebody's got a chain wallet or their keys on a carabiner in here too. The sweatband on the forearm. Don't know why that was ever a thing. That's one of the greatest mysteries of 2000s pop punk to me. I don't get it, especially the red, white, and blue one. So all of that being said, we got to give them some credit for their drip, but I still don't think that's enough to take them beyond the A tier. So that is where I will leave Simple Plan. Let's talk about Lagwagon, one of the definitive bands of the 90s skate punk scene. For anyone who's not familiar, let's just listen to Lagwagon a minute. This is a good song, I like it. Not the best song in the world, but good, right? I don't think they're gonna win any awards, but a solid band. Also, the logo, very, very, very 90s. Like the Snapple, you know, circular like Snapple type logos. Looks like it could be on one of those gas station shirts. So where would we put them? A tier for influence. I don't know if I would agree with that. I don't hear their name come up too often. I would say C tier is probably fair. That's what I think. If this was the 90s, I would maybe score it differently. I'd maybe put them a notch higher. But I feel like their star has fallen significantly since the 90s. So I'll go with C tier. Strung Out. This is another one of these bands that I really like, but unfortunately has turned into a Punisher band. Probably because they're kind of technical. You know, anytime a band plays technical music where they shred a little bit, that's when we worry about the Punishers showing up. So it's unfortunate that the Punishers have taken over so much of Strung Out. It really bums me out because it makes me not want to talk about Strung Out. So I'm like, all right, well then the Punishers are going to show up and start blurting out things about how good their guitarists were and stuff. And that kind of takes a little bit of the fun out of it for me. But I have to be honest, the band is great. I love them. I have been a huge fan of this band since probably 94 or something like that. I understand why the Punishers like him because these guys are shredders. Shit is so fast. Playing this fast and this tight, especially back then with analog recordings, is crazy. This song is hard as fuck to play. I think this is the one. No, it's not. It's this one. This one. Strung Out, unfortunately, a bit of a Punisher band. It's too bad. They've almost ruined the band for me that I never want to talk about them because whenever they are brought up, it just gets ugly. But with that said, I'm going to put them on the B tier, I think. Not as popular as Lagwagon, but I hear their name come up a lot more now than I ever do Lagwagon. So I would say that in some ways, you know, they've had a little bit more of a legacy. And I think their music holds up in hindsight a lot better than Lagwagon's does. So I'd put them on the B tier. That's what I think. Now, a band that it's going to be a tough one because you guys know my feelings about ska. But let's talk about Goldfinger. Absolutely horrible, embarrassing logo. I mean, look at this. This looks like the logo for some Christian youth group kind of get-together night back in the day. So 90s it hurts, which in some ways kind of makes sense for this band. And where do we think that they belong? Let's take a listen to Goldfinger. I'm sure everybody watching this is probably familiar, but on the off chance that you aren't, let's just take a listen. Here in Your Bedroom is their Breakout, right? That's the one I remember in high school. Just the ska part is what makes my soul hurt. And the suits, that's right. Oh, makes my soul hurt. Suits with rock music, never a good idea. Never a good idea. John Feldman, you know, he's gone on to become a super successful producer that's worked with everybody in pop punk pretty much. Fantastic songwriter. Superman is a popular one as well. Do love that snare. Love that snare. Ooh, this is absolutely awful. I think that this is a very good song. I mean, everything John Feldman writes is a great song, but the ska, it's like, ugh. The fact that it's ska is a deal breaker. I find this song very ironic, which is actually my favorite Goldfinger song. This is like one of the only Goldfinger songs that I just genuinely really like a lot. This is a great fucking song. What happened to dignity? Did it go away again? And I'll tell you why I think this song is so ironic and funny. This part. I find this very funny and ironic because the line is, I want to believe that the goddamn singer wrote the song, which is very funny considering that the person who wrote that writes a lot of songs for other people. As a few examples, some of the bands that he has written for, of just a few of them, you can see Escape the Fate, Mod Sun, Jaden, The Used, Horn, Blink, 311, Atreyu, Mayday Parade, Black Veil Brides, All Time Low, 5 Seconds of Summer, Avicii, We Are the In Crowd, Beartooth, We Came as Romans. And he didn't necessarily write songs for all of these people. For some of them, maybe he was just a producer, but still, you can see here, like writer, producer, you can see what he did for each of these. The guy has written a lot of songs for other people, which is why I think it's so ironic that he has this song that seems to be getting up on his high horse about songwriters. I don't really understand that one. But in any case, the question is, where does Goldfinger belong? Well, they're more commercially successful than I would like to admit. Probably more influential than I would like to admit as well, because, you know, my audience loves ska. You know, people punish me about this band all the time. Do I like them? I don't. But they're not the worst band in the world. I think that they belong on the A tier. I mean, they got to go higher than Strung Out and Lagwagon, right? Not big enough to be on the same tier as Good Charlotte or anything like that, but I think they got to be A tier. Who's next? How about Alkaline Trio? This is a band that a little bit of a cult Punisher kind of fan base of a band. Stupid Kid. One of them was you for just a little while. Alkaline Trio is an interesting one because, you know, they're sort of like the original sad boy pop punk band. They're one of these bands that, man, their fans are a bunch of sad fuck-ups. That's just the truth. Good for them. I mean, seems to help people. Here's my advice for anybody out there who's single, that wants to find somebody who's into pop punk. If someone has an Alkaline Trio tattoo, I would say that's a red flag. Proceed with extreme caution. That's what I would say. Question is, where do they fit? Commercial success, I feel like they did all right, but really more of like a cult band. Influence, I would say they're quite influential. They have a very diehard fan base. I think people love Matt Skiba. I would give them pretty high score for influence. Do I like them? Not really, other than Stupid Kid, but it's because I don't like sad, mopey music. I objectively recognize that it's very good, so I'll put them on the B tier. Respectable. All Time Low is next. I'm going to guess everyone already knows All Time Low, but just in case you don't, we'll just listen to my favorite All Time Low song. I kind of hate this band in a lot of ways. They seem like kind of douchey guys to me. What made me think they were douchey is they played with, I think it was Issues or something like that. And backstage, there was this sign hanging up at the venue that had like their faces on it. And then underneath it, it said, "These people will not be wearing badges. Know their faces." And I was like, what is the fucking deal with this? Like, why don't you just wear your fucking badges? Like, you're not the fucking Rolling Stones. Just wear your fucking badge. What's the big deal? All the kind of overlays here are so douchey. This is a good example of why it just kind of makes me, like, I get douche chills from this band. Like, why would you say this? She only wants your money. They didn't even have any money in 2009. This is a great song, though. I'm stuck in this fucking rut, and I'm over getting older. It's not my weekend. Great song. It does slap. Alex is a great songwriter. I'll say that much. This part's awesome. As much as I don't want to admit it, I do think that they are a good band. They have been canceled, and I don't know all the details of it, but I feel like it's important for me to mention that they have been canceled. Because I don't know enough about it to have an opinion, I'm going to set aside the cancellation for now. Commercial success, you know, they just had a platinum single, I think. They're killing it, and they have been around for, I don't know, 15 years now or something, maybe even a little bit more. They have like a #1 song with Black Bear and Demi Lovato. They're doing better than ever. It's weird. It's so unusual to see a band kind of hit their stride this late in their career. It's like them and Ice Nine Kills are like some of the only examples. So hats off for that. Influence, you know, again, like I said, I don't know how influential they were, because I feel like nobody in a band says, oh yeah, All Time Low is my favorite band when I was a kid, other than Lil Yachty. I think mentioned it. But definitely, you know, they have some legacy, some influence. They're a bit of a gateway band. I don't like them that much. But, you know, given how successful they've been recently, I'm going to have to put them on the A tier. Again, with the asterisk that I'm aware there are these allegations out there. I'm aware of the cancellation. I don't know enough of the details to have an opinion on it. If it turns out that they did something horrible, I'm not ignoring that or co-signing on it. I just don't know enough about it. Knuckle Puck. Yeah, that's a good one. Knuckle Puck is one of the big four of late 2000s sad boy pop punk. This was like their big song, I think. The shouty lyrics about a girl genre of pop punk.
Where's your respect?
Bah, 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 bah.
Did your father teach you anything?
Look at such like an incel. Where's your respect? There's a lot of incel energy in this whole genre. And their dad guitars. I like Knuckle Puck. Good band. Not a great band, but good. When we're talking about the mid-2010s Tumblr sad boy pop punk, Knuckle Puck definitely has to be part of that conversation. You know, they just go hand in hand with desaturated picture of a forest with lyrics over the top in some handwritten font, or like DSLR pictures of some girl's room with a Real Friends flag on the wall, right? We got to think about that stuff, and they're certainly part of that conversation. Where do they belong on this tier list? This is going to sound harsh because I like the band. I'm going to put them on the D tier because, you know, not really that big of a band, not super influential. I mean, there's nothing that no influence that we could attribute to Knuckle Puck that the story so far didn't do better. You know, they're more influential in every way. Do I like them? Yes, but objectively, I have to put them on the D tier, even though I like them. But you know, C tier and D tier bands are oftentimes some of the best stuff. Rufio, we knew that was gonna come up, right? We knew that because Rufio is a mega Punisher band. Why does everyone fucking worship this band? I don't know. How did this band get such a massive Punisher fan base? Is it because they play fast and nerds like anything with this fast with lots of notes? I mean, this is terrible. This is terrible. It's just fast, but it's not good at all. It's not good. I mean, like, I remember this band from back in the day. I don't remember anybody giving a shit about them, but this band's fans now are brutal. I'm sorry. I know the fans are going to be upset about this because I know you guys are Punishers that think that these guys are God's gift to music. This is really bad. It goes on the F tier. I'm sorry, my friends. That is local band stuff. Who is next? Guttermouth. Guttermouth is the best and worst band ever. Truly shit tier, yet incredible music. I will just tell you ahead of time, not exactly the most politically correct band in the world. For example, this song, which is from, I think this is from like 97. The band is horrible and great at the same time.
You know what pisses me off more than anything is all these people who aren't exactly politically correct. Like the other day I was walking my Siberian American Huskies. Man, get your dog's ass out of that other dog's nose. How dare you call them dogs? They're Siberian American Huskies. That's like calling an African American a black. Worse yet, it's like calling a homosexual a stupid. Pissed me off so bad that I dyed my hair blue, got a nose ring, and moved to San Francisco.
Listen how bad the band is too. They're terrible. Very ahead of their time. This is like edgelord Huntington Beach music. I always liked how Guttermouth was like kind of metal, yet they also couldn't play. Like they were the worst musicians in the world. In a way that I really loved.
She likes to read, I like TV. She's checking out my good friend Steve.
This is like their best song and it's still terrible. Look at what fucking assholes they look like. Like, I would bet a lot of money that somebody in this band now posts anti-vax stuff on Facebook every single day. I would bet a lot of money on that, actually. Anyway, where do we put Guttermouth? I went on way too long about Guttermouth, but they're a very special band in the 90s because, well, you can understand. F tier, but in a great way. I've always had a soft spot for Guttermouth because they're just such shitbags in a way that I'm very glad I don't know anybody in this band because I don't want anything to do with any of them ever. Yeah, well, look, we got to bump Rufio up to the E tier because nobody can be better than Guttermouth. Guttermouth is one of the worst bands of all time, but in a way that I appreciate. If every band was good, then we wouldn't know who was bad. So in a way, we have to be grateful that bands like Guttermouth and Dr. Acula exist to show us what shit tier music truly sounds like. What do we think about State Champs? This is their best song. Sounds like he says Matt Damon. It's great production on this song. Shout out to Kyle Black who mixed this. And where do we think they belong? They did all right there for a minute in terms of commercial success. Influence, you know, again, I wouldn't say that there's anything they did that the story so far didn't do. I do think they're a good band. C tier is the place for them. And again, C tier is not a bad thing. Oftentimes the C tier is the best stuff. Oh, Newfound Glory. Good idea. We got to have Newfound Glory. On the off chance that there's anybody watching that doesn't know their old school songs, this is my favorite. This one with this is the one with Rachel Lee Cook in it. That's right. I love this song. I love this album. I get very nostalgic for this one. I was definitely the target audience for this album when it came out. The down bad nerd from the suburbs who wishes that he had a girlfriend that was like Rachel Lee Cook. I was 100% the target audience for this album, and I still love it to this day. Still think it holds up. I wonder if they ever even got to be in the same set as Rachel Lee Cook. I don't think they did. If I was going to pay her to be in the video, I would certainly insist that I at least got to hover hand her, right? I just want a picture of me hover handing Rachel Lee Cook, like smiling awkwardly with my hand half an inch above her shoulder. That's all I want. If I can hover hand Rachel Lee Cook at some point in my life, I'll die a happy man. So the question is, where do they belong? I am going to say, you know, people may not remember how big this band was at their peak. They were like on TRL. They have platinum albums. They were in the Billboard Top 10. I would say they are extremely influential because they were really the first band to combine like pop punk and hardcore, the entire genre of easycore. Like they literally invented the name easycore. If 2010's pop punk was kind of about combining hardcore with pop punk, they're absolutely the band who kind of started that whole thing. I think they're great. You know, their entire discography holds up. I would say they belong in the S tier. That's what I think. That's right. They gave the story so far their name. That's right. They did. We didn't do a Day to Remember. How insane. How did we not do a Day to Remember? How could I possibly leave them off this list?